संसार सारं भुजगेन्द्रहारं सदा वसन्तं हृदयारविन्दे भवं भवानी सहितं नमामि। इससे संकीर्तन राधा राधा कृष्ण राधा 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 कृष्ण राधा 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 कृष्ण राधा 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 कृष्ण राधा 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 कृष्ण राधा 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 कृष्ण राधा राधा कृष्ण राधा 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 राधा कृष्ण राधा 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 कृष्ण राधा राधा कृष्ण राधा 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 कृष्ण राधा 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 कृष्ण राधा 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 कृष्ण राधा 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 कृष्ण राधा। गोविंद गोविंद गोपाल मुरली मनोहर नंदलाला गोविंद गोविंद गोपाल मुरली मनोहर नंदलाला गोविंद गोविंद गोपाल मुरली मनोहर नंदलाला गोविंद गोविंद गोपाल गोविंद गोविंद गोपाल मुरली मनोहर नंदलाला 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 राधा राधा कृष्ण राधा 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 कृष्ण राधा 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 कृष्ण राधा 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 कृष्ण राधा 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 कृष्ण राधा 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 कृष्ण राधा राधा गोविंद गोविंद गोपाल मुरली मनोहर नंदलाला 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 गोविंद 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 गोपाल मुरली मनोहर नंदलाला राधा राधा कृष्ण राधा 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 कृष्ण राधा 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 कृष्ण
shift to the inner world. Bring that same awareness, same focus that we usually have for the world around us. And shine that light on the world inside. Take a moment and just allow yourself to witness what it feels like right now, right here, as you. Keep the awareness focused on the inner world. Allow it to merge with the breath. If there are sensations from the outer world, sounds, smells, or thoughts that come, don't worry about them. Just keep the awareness focused on the breath and on the world within. On each exhalation, allow yourself to let go. Let go of the roles that you play. Let go of the masks that you wear. Let go of the identity and the personality that you associate as you. As you exhale, allow yourself to just breathe them out. And sink deeper and deeper into the place within where there are no masks, no rules, no identity or personality. On each exhalation, just sink more deeply into that space within. Letting go more and more on each exhalation. Let go of the stress. Let go of the tension. Let go of the roles and responsibilities. And allow yourself, with each exhalation, to sink deeper and deeper into the spacious center of the self. Sinking deeper and deeper with every exhalation into that place of spacious freedom within. Drop into that space with each exhalation. Keep drawing the awareness in. Back into the breath. Into the space between the thoughts. Into the expansiveness of the source at the core of the self. Gently bring the palms of your hands together, chest level. And gently rub the palms against each other. Place your cupped palms over your closed eyes. Opening your eyes into the palms of your hands. Gently lower your palms. Welcome to Satsang, everyone. It's wonderful to have you all here. Is it not working? Huh? It's not working.
No. The microphone.
So I'll begin with a question or two that have come in advance, and then open it to anyone here who has questions. Yes, that's right, I forgot. We have our question from last night. So why don't we just begin with that? We'll call that a question that came in advance, since last night counts as in advance. Will you remind us all of what your question was?
I just wanted to say, how do we remove this negative sort of a thought? It's not a thought, it is happening just 63 years back. And last 53 years, up to 53 years it was not coming. But for last after 53 years, it is coming and disturbing me. Only that particular incident. No other negativity is coming, but except that. Only one.
Yeah, it's such a tragedy of our lives that she said, you know, for the last 3 years, one instance of so many decades ago is intruding on my meditation, intruding on my life, keeping me from meditating and living. No other thought, no other problem, just this one instance. This happens, it happens so frequently to us that there's something from the past. It's like a thorn in our conscience, a thorn in our consciousness. Something that happened, some way that someone injured us, some way that someone betrayed us, something that happened. And it won't let us be in peace. And this is where the practice of forgiveness is so important. So many many times we don't forgive because we think that forgiving somehow is like saying what happened is okay. That if I forgive you, it means it was okay for you to abuse me or harm me or cheat me or betray me or abandon me. And so of course we can't forgive. We try to move on. It's not like we're trying to hold a grudge. We try to move on. We try to get on and up with our lives. But we can't actually forgive it. Because in so many cases it was so objectively wrong that how can you forgive that? And the tragedy of this misunderstanding of forgiveness is something that ends up killing us. Forgiveness does not mean that what happened was okay. Forgiveness does not mean we are condoning abuse, betrayal, lying, cheating, abandonment, none of that. Forgiveness means one thing and one thing only, which is I deserve to be free. That's what forgiveness means. I forgive you because I deserve to be free. That's all. The fruit of your karma is yours to eat, not mine to give you. I cannot make apples grow on an apple tree, and I cannot bring you fruit of karma. There is a divine energy that does all of that. The energy of nature that makes apples spring on apple trees out of apple seeds, and the energy of the law of karma that brings the fruits, the repercussions, the ramifications, the effects of things that we do. But that's not up to us. Any more than making apples come out of an apple seed is up to us. We can't do it anyway. When that seed is planted, that's then in the divine hands. And so when someone does something in our lives, they're going to get the karmic ramifications of that. But we're not the karmic police. We don't need to stand there reminding God, by the way, just remember this guy or this gal, they've got something coming to them, because any more than the universe needs us to stand over an apple seed and say, hey, remember, apples. Apples. Oranges are over there, this one's apples. Well, the universe knows that. They never make mistakes. You never get watermelons coming out of an apple seed. But the universe says, oh my God, I'm so sorry, I got mixed up. I really thought this was watermelons for a second over here. So the point of that is it's not our job, not our responsibility. We don't need to hold on. And so I forgive you means I deserve to be free. Whatever you did, knowingly, unknowingly, consciously, unconsciously, purposely, not purposely, that's a bed you've made that you now have to lie in. I need to take care of my bed, my life. And the way to do that is through forgiveness. And so if we can really forgive, and a lot of times what happens is things are from so long ago, we think we've gotten over it. And of course, the part of us that's on a spiritual path, the part of us that feels like mature adults, it's very difficult for us to handle the idea that we're still holding on to something from so long ago. And so we say, oh, I'm over that. not still angry about that. But what you can be sure of is if 30 or 40 or 50 years later, something's coming into your meditation over and over and over again, there's some unfinished business there. And sometimes it's not forgiving others, sometimes it's forgiving ourselves. Sometimes it's something we did. Again, knowingly, unknowingly, purposely, not purposely. But something we did that keeps coming back. And we forgive ourselves the same way that we forgive others. Because we need to be free. That same compassion, that same loving kindness, that same oneness that we meditate upon and strive to feel for the world. Well, we have to feel it for ourselves as well. It's not have compassion for the world minus yourself. Feel loving kindness with the world minus yourself. The world is a family except you. It's not that. Have compassion for the world, including yourself. Experience loving kindness for the world, including yourself. Serve the world, including yourself. The world is a family, your family. All of these tenets are not minus you, they're including you. So whatever it is that's that thorn in your meditation, when it's negative, as you say, it's something negative, it keeps coming back. It means it's something to be looked at and then to be let go of. That's where we have the power of ritual. It's not the only way to let things go, but I have found personally that it's very, very powerful. Whether it's a fire ceremony, whether it's a prayer on the banks of Mother Ganga, there's something about natural elements. Whether you are Indian, whether you are Hindu, whether you're not, it doesn't matter. There's something about using natural elements in a ritual for ourselves that's very powerful. And what ends up happening, and this is the last point that I'll mention about this, is when something is coming up from a really long time ago, or when something is working in our unconscious, in our subconscious, and it's there, it's a pattern, it's there, it keeps coming. The dilemma is our conscious mind is the one saying, oh, you should go away, oh, I shouldn't think about you, I'm not going to think about you anymore. But the conscious mind and the subconscious and unconscious mind are not actually interacting very much. And so the conscious mind is sort of shouting in its own metaphoric closed room. It thinks it's getting a message to the subconscious, it thinks it's getting a message to the unconscious, but it's actually not, because it's shouting only within the very padded walls of its own conscious mind. And the programming in the subconscious and unconscious are actually taking place in an entirely other area. On the other side of those padded walls, soundproof walls of our conscious mind. And this is where the dilemma comes up so frequently in life. Whether it's negative intrusions, whether it's addictions, whether it's emotional, psychological issues that we struggle with, depression that we have no rational understanding of why it's there. Everything is fine in my life, why am I depressed? So many of these things arise because it's the conscious thinking mind that's doing the analysis. But the unconscious and subconscious minds that are where the pattern and the suffering or the negativity exists. And so you're literally shouting fruitlessly. And so the goal becomes, how can I actually impact my subconscious and unconscious mind? And there's a lot of ways, but ritual is a very powerful one. Hypnosis is one. Meditation is one. But unfortunately, just shouting from the conscious mind into your subconscious doesn't work very well. If you do it with enough repetition, enough times during every day for a long enough period, it will percolate down. And this is where the power of affirmation, for example, comes in. Some subconscious, unconscious level, we feel not enough. Okay. Well, yes, one way of using the conscious mind to get in is literally just bombarding myself constantly with, I am enough, I am full, I am whole. But it's not, once a week doesn't work, once a day doesn't even work. If I'm going to use the conscious mind to get in like that, it literally has to be everywhere I look. But there are, fortunately, other ways into that unconscious, subconscious mind. And as I said, meditation, hypnosis, ritual, but it's things that get us into a state of mind out of just our conscious thinking mind. And so ritual has that power if you're really connected to it. So if you've got something that you're looking to let go of, because suddenly out of the blue, there it is 50 years later, intruding upon your meditation, a yagna ceremony, a puja on the banks of Ganga. It's literally just a, I'm going to take this. I give this to you. I give this to the fire. And if you can actually experience, as the mantras are being chanted, that they literally go within you and alchemically transform the self on the inside, it's an incredible experience. This is what the Vedic mantras are. It's not about religion. It's about alchemy. The Indian scriptures on the power of sound, it's not about belief or faith or tenets or principles. It's about energetic transformation. Sound is energy. And so as the mantras are being chanted, there is actually a vibrational energy that transforms you. And so that's a very, very powerful way of letting go of it. Because chances are, there's very little about something that happened 50 years ago that's really going to be that useful for our life today. You know, usually I'm a big proponent psychologically of, okay, let's look at things and examine them. But unless there's something that really is going to benefit you in some way to look at it, which my instinct is no. It's helpful to know what it is. Oh yeah, I guess that hurt me more than I realized. Oh yeah, that's an element from my childhood. Okay, fine. That happened. There was a young boy.
That's correct. Exactly like that.
But not you. But you are not that young boy anymore.
It was, this instance has taken place when I was studying 7th standard.
Yeah.
You see, that
I know. And that's actually
that has been permanently in my subconscious mind, which has come after 53 years.
And it's very, very common. And interestingly, as ironic as it seems, 7th standard, which is about 12, 13 years old, is actually old in terms of where so much of that stuff is. Most of the time you'll hear, it was I was 5, it was I was 7, it was I was 3. But the reason is when we were young, our brains actually, neurologically, the wavelength at which we were functioning most of the time is actually a wavelength that is much more like that when we are in a state of hypnosis, when we are in altered states of consciousness. And so that which happens when we're young tends to have such a greater core impact on us than, say, that which happens when we're 23 or 33. Because it's impacting us on a completely different vibrational level of the psyche. And the dilemma then becomes, here we are 20, 30, 50 years later, trying to get at it from one level of consciousness, but it's existing on a different level of consciousness. And this is where you have to get into that level. So for you personally, what I would do is I would bring in a very conscious practice of forgiveness. Forgiveness of yourself, forgiveness of whoever else was present, whatever may have happened. A very conscious practice of, I forgive you. I forgive you. Even if it was just the universe, even if it was no one's actual fault. When we're young, we tend to be hurt and angry by things that don't necessarily hold up to the light of our adult, mature brain. And so, for example, our parents get divorced, let's say, or a parent dies. Well, as adults, we can look back on that and we can say, Mom was sick, she died. Dad was in a car accident, he died. Mom and Dad hated each other, therefore they got divorced. Okay, and as adults, we're perfectly able to rationally look at that. But as kids, there's a felt sense of, Mom left me, Dad left me. Now obviously they didn't try to die, but there's an anger that's there that as adults we don't even let ourselves see because it seems so irrational. And it makes us feel so badly about ourselves. How can you be angry at your mom for getting sick and dying? How can you be angry at your dad for getting rear-ended in a car accident that killed him? Clearly it's not their fault. But on an unconscious level, there's anger. On an unconscious level, there's also guilt. Children feel responsible for everything that happens to them. And so most children whose parents got divorced when they were young, on some level, carry a sense of, if I were better, my parents wouldn't have gotten divorced. If I were better, Dad wouldn't have gotten sick and died. But we don't deal with this as adults because the minute it starts to bubble up, our adult rational mind says, oh, don't be stupid. And then we berate ourselves and it goes right back down into our unconscious. But it's there. And it's there on a level that we're not accessing. And so it really helps to just look at it and to say, oh yeah, wow, okay. There was anger. There was guilt. But we don't need to go into psychoanalysis 50 years later to deal with it, hopefully. I mean, it's obviously better to go into psychoanalysis than to keep suffering from it, but my first suggestion would be, see if you can just let it go. Through ritual. Through getting yourself into a state of consciousness out of the thinking mind. It can be done in meditation, because meditation also takes you there. It can be done sitting in a yagna ceremony. It can be done through hypnosis. It can be done, there's a technique called Psych K that Bruce Lipton and several other teachers in this field talk about. There's a lot of different ways. There's nothing that's right or wrong or better or worse. But what's most important is to acknowledge that simply the conscious mind saying, okay, I'm done, usually isn't enough. The same way that the conscious mind saying, okay, I'm not going to drink anymore or use anymore, frequently isn't enough, and we need a whole other element of internal and external allies in that.
Actually, what happens is, when somebody tells you lies, he goes on telling you lies.
Yeah.
That lies becomes for you. If he goes on continuously telling lies, and it becomes okay for you, then it makes
truth.
It becomes a truth, and then it makes a permanent impression in your subconscious mind.
Yes.
And now I was being told, you can do one thing. This negativity, you do the reverse way. Now you bring positivity.
Mm-hmm.
Bring continuous positive thoughts, like the way I was. Induce negativity continuously. The same thing you induce positively continuously. Not once or twice. Continuously.
This is like what you were saying about the affirmations.
Go on continuously doing it. It may one day get balanced and remove it from there. I don't know.
I would do both.
But actually, I am a very religious minded right from my childhood. When I was talking about self-study from that time itself. I'm a believer, firm believer of a God. I worship for 2 hours right from my childhood. Even my service time I used to do. I used to do meditation continuously, yoga continuously, like. But this is only one thought, which is now after so many years, just giving some bringing something.
Take it as.
That I don't know how to. It's particular one thought. Otherwise, so many negativity I see now, but that doesn't affect me at all.
I understand.
Yeah.
I understand. So I've given some ways of addressing it on the subconscious, unconscious level.
Yeah.
The way that you said that people have suggested just substitute it with positivity. This is what I was saying about the affirmations. And yeah, it absolutely can work. In order to work, though, it literally has to be continuous. And so, if you can, what I would suggest is that if the thought, for example, was, if what you were told was, you're stupid, and so what got in was, I'm stupid, or if what you were told was, you're bad, and what got in was, I'm bad, to give an affirmation that is the exact opposite of that. So, you are brilliant. You are divine. Not just good. Why only good? you are divine. Yeah, right? So you are good implies you're adequate, you're fine, you're okay. You're not just fine or okay, you're divine. You are exactly how you should be, and the reason we know that is that's the way God made you. And God doesn't make mistakes. God doesn't leave anyone, half-baked. And so how you are is exactly how you should be. So whatever the negative programming is, choose an affirmation that is the opposite of it. But here's what's important. It needs to be something that is about the core of who you are, not what you do. We don't want to be staying on the treadmill of feeling okay about ourselves based on what we do. And so if you believe that you are not enough, let's say, due to whatever programming you got, like we all got, we're not enough, you wouldn't want to substitute that by saying, you do so much. You help so many people. You are so successful. Because these are all things that actually are very transitory. You may be successful today, you may not be successful tomorrow. One crash of the stock market, one false malpractice suit, one accident, well, who knows what it is. But that success could be gone in a moment. Today you're achieving so much. Who knows, God forbid you get in a car accident tomorrow. God forbid something happens. You no longer can get up and go to work. You don't want your sense of enoughness, fullness, completeness to be based on what you do. So choose anything that feels right, but as long as it's based on the core of who you are. And substitute that. But I would also work on forgiveness for whoever put that in your mind. Because we only believe things when we have faith and trust in the person who told us. Now, of course, yes, you get something in enough times, it becomes our truth. Until we look at it. But when I look at it, it becomes my truth if I'm unconscious. If I become conscious of the fact that I've been brainwashed to believe something, and I A, know that it's not true, and B, don't have faith in the people who told me, it's very easy to let go of that belief. It only retains its power over me when A, I keep it unconscious, or B, I believe on some level still in the omnipotence of those who told me. And this is why stuff we get from parents is so intense. Because even though as fully grown rational adults we can look back on our parents and say, oh, they were doing their best, they were young, they were struggling, they were stressed, whatever. As kids, our parents are omnipotent, our parents are God, our parents are everything. And so whatever they tell us, it has to be true. But if you can bring in a practice of forgiveness for those who have put that in, it helps heal that. And then lastly, I would suggest also, give yourself a ritual. You're here on the banks of Ganga. Have a yagna ceremony. You said you've always been very religious, so this isn't going to be something that's, bringing in an aspect of religion that isn't yours. Let them do a yagna ceremony to free you from it. And with each offering into the yagna, just give that lie. We know it's a lie. Just give that. Give the experience of I'm not enough. Give the experience of whatever it is that you've been told, give that into the fire. Let God take that. And let that then take some of those ashes and offer that to Ganga. You have to stop for a minute. Your conscious mind has wrapped itself around this and it's not letting you be free. And I can tell even just as you sit there and plan what you're going to say as soon as I stop what I'm saying. And in order for you to really allow yourself to be free, you have to let go of that grip you have on it. You have to let go of the place that it's occupying in your life. You're giving it space. You can decide in this moment not to give it that space anymore. But you have to let that happen. There's no brain surgery, sadly, that can be done where someone can go in and actually remove that. I mean, it would be fantastic if we could just walk into the neurosurgeons and say, for God's sakes, could you just take this not enoughness out of my brain? You know, could you just take that out? They can't. We have to do it.
Believe that particular instance from your son.
It would be great. It would be great.
Actually, you'll be surprised. I am such a person, even if you slap me, I will forgive. I have tremendous that forgiveness with me. Right from my childhood, because my father has taught me earlier.
So what I would suggest for you then in that case is,
I forgive everybody.
Let's look not here in such a big group. But what that means, if you say I forgive everyone, what that means to me is there's something about this instance that is very different from anything that's ever happened to you. There is something about this instance that you have taken in as part of core self. And maybe it does need to be looked at. Maybe it needs to be looked at more than just pushed out. It may be something you want to look at within yourself, in your meditation. It may be something you want to talk about. But if you find that it's something that everything else that's happened I can forgive, but I can't forgive this one thing. Well, okay, it's a way in. You know, it's like they say where the crack is, well, that's where the light goes through. So don't hate this thing. This is the tears. One thing that's happened you can't forgive. One thing that's happened that gives you a clue, a vision into the pain that so many other people suffer from in so many instances. Maybe this one thing is your way in. And so maybe that's why it's there. But if this weren't there, you'd have nothing else to look at. If this weren't there, there'd be no other crack in the psyche. If this weren't there, there'd be no reason for that meditation or that forgiveness practice or that yagna or that puja. Because of this, there's a crack. And through that crack, the light's going to come in. And so maybe that's the role it's playing. Which leads us to the question, of course, what light needs to get in that wasn't already getting in? What aspect of me is it that needs light in? And how can I allow that light in? By healing this, rather by allowing it to stay a wound. Because we're going to keep having those wounds. As long as there are parts within us where the light doesn't shine, the universe is going to keep cracking us open there. And so the question becomes, okay, what is it that I need to do so that the light can shine fully? So I don't have to keep getting cracked open in that spot. Yes?
Are bad events the result of some kind of karmic retribution? Or is it just a random event? Or is the universe trying to show you something?
So are bad events the result of karmic retribution? No. The law of karma is not about rewards and punishments. This is very important to understand. Frequently it gets spoken about like that in a very overly simplistic way. Something bad has happened, this must be my bad karma for something bad that I've done. And sometimes people will say it, oh God, you know, you're sick, you must have done something really bad. Oh, your home was burgled, well, you must have done something really bad to deserve it. This is a really sinister misinterpretation of the law of karma. The law of karma is nature. And nature doesn't have rewards, punishments, good or bad. We were speaking earlier about seeds and fruit. Plant an apple seed, assuming that there is the right amount of sun and rain and whatnot, you'll get an apple tree. You'll then have apples. The apples are neither a reward nor a punishment. They are simply the natural result of the plantation of an apple seed. Now, if you love apples, it's going to feel like a reward. Wow, this is so great, I've got these juicy apples. If you're allergic to apples, it's going to feel like a punishment. Look at this, my whole front yard is full with these things that, make me break out in hives. Why am I being punished? Well, they're actually just apples. They're neither your reward nor your punishment. They are simply the result of a seed that you have planted at some point during your life or in past lives. So that's one really important thing, is we should never feel, regardless of what happens to us, we should never feel like, oh, this must be my punishment, or this must be my reward. This is simply the result. But karma plays another role. The ultimate goal of the universe for me in this life is that I should wake up. That's the universe's goal. You should recognize the divinity of who you are. That is the universe's ulterior motive. It's all it wants. You should wake up. You should experience God within yourself, which leads you to experience God in the Creator and the creation, which leads you into that oneness, that loss of separation, into that freedom that we call moksha, or nirvana, or heaven, or samadhi, or enlightenment, or whatever term we're going to use for this, but that here in the body, I have that experience. That's what the universe wants, which also means that in addition to being the result of seeds you planted, things that happen are given to you because they are the most conducive situation for you to take your next step closer to that. So when things happen to us, rather than bemoaning that we're being punished and just trying to kind of, grit our teeth and make it through, the question becomes, what doorway am I supposed to walk through in this? What layer of myself is supposed to be being peeled back in this? What light is supposed to be getting in that the universe has cracked me open here? Because only then do I go on to the next aspect. If I don't, I'm going to have to keep having those sorts of events happen. So if it were simply a punishment, stand in the corner for 20 minutes, well, after 20 minutes, you're done. But the agenda here is that you peel back that layer, you work through whatever it is. You're going to keep having those events. And the other piece on that is that karma works when we think about it in terms of direction, of time. It works in two ways. One is that which I did in the past has brought me to where I am today. So where I am today is just an effect of what I did in the past. But also sometimes where I am today is the precedent for something that's supposed to happen in the future. And so sometimes things happen, I really believe, not necessarily do so much to something from the past, but much more to give us something for the future. Yeah, and of course there are karmic antecedents that we can look at and say, yeah, that's why it happened. But really the point of that event, not so much as being the ramification of what we did, but rather being the foundation of what is supposed to happen. Where are we supposed to grow? Where are we supposed to open? And how has that event primed us for that next step? Yes, last.
Thank you for your teachings tonight. It's really special. Yesterday you spoke about the tree sapling being in its little pod before it grows. I guess my question is about when you're kind of at the beginning of your journey into awareness and you're a bit vulnerable. Do you have any advice on how to create a little tree protector?
Yeah, that tree guard we talked about yesterday when you first plant a sapling. And it needs to be protected or it's going to get eaten by the monkeys or the dogs or the cows. So we need a tree guard around it to protect it. But of course, later on, once it's become a full-grown tree and its roots are in the ground, it doesn't need a tree guard. Monkeys can come and swing on its branches and nothing's going to happen to it.
Take care of yourself.
I'm sorry?
It will take care of itself.
It'll take care of itself, exactly. So she's asked, how do we, on a spiritual path, create a metaphoric tree guard around us in the beginning? Several ways. First of all, the power of our community. You can't change the world in which you live. You can move from one city to another city, but the goal is not, how can I go back and make my whole city really spiritual so that it's nicer for me to live in it? It would be a great challenge. It would be a wonderful undertaking once you're more grounded. But the goal in terms of your community when you go back is, how can I go back and ensure that I have a community? And it doesn't have to be 1 million people. As long as you've got one person, it's really enough. Obviously, if you've got a bigger community, that's great. But if you've got even one person who's on the same path, who's going to encourage you and guide you, or if you feel like meditating, but maybe you feel like meditating with someone who would meditate with you and wouldn't say, oh my God, you're so boring, like, why don't we go to clubs anymore? At least one person who would be excited by an invitation to come over and meditate. That's a community it's really important to have. And in a worst case scenario, if you don't have it physically, if you literally don't have people in your community like that, well, fortunately these days with the internet, we can create virtual communities. So you never have to feel alone. Ideally, there are going to be real people in front of you. A virtual connection can never replace an actual person. But if you don't have actual people and you've got at least a virtual community in which you gather together every day, once a week, whatever it is, and you share and you meditate, make sure that you have that. The other thing that's really important is make sure that when you schedule your day, that you schedule time for your spiritual practice. Otherwise, regular life will just suck you up. If you assume that you're going to meditate after you've done everything else, the everything else will also include like having died and gone on to your next birth, because everything else is never done. So make sure that when you are setting up a daily schedule, that it includes your spiritual practice. Make sure it includes something that connects you to your community. So whether you're doing some seva, whether you are just connecting with someone in some way, but something that connects you back to that spiritual community, whether you're meeting them in person, whatever it is. So you've got your personal spiritual practice, and then you've got something connected to your community. If you have a guru, something connected to the guru, whether it's with the guru, him or herself, whether it's with other disciples, whatever it may be, but something that just connects you back into knowing, yeah, my people, my community. That brings you back into that. And if you don't have a guru, don't worry. As long as there's a community, even if it's just this community. Whatever it is, connect. Because that's going to connect you back to who you are when you're sitting here. So make sure of that. And don't underestimate the power of our energetic interactions in the world. And some of it we don't have control over. Gotta get to work, gotta take the subway. Who's on the subway? You have no control. But we do have a lot of control over a lot of our lives. Where we go, who we spend time with, the things that we do. You're going to be different when you go back to whatever city you're from than you were when you left there and you came here. It's a different you going back, which means that you're not going to be able to just slide into doing exactly what you used to do with exactly the people you used to do it in exactly the way you used to do it. And that's great. When we were kids and we outgrew our old, pants and shoes, they're always very excited. Look, I've outgrown my shoes, look. And it's a cause for excitement and celebration. Mom, and maybe not for the mom who has to keep buying new things, but for the kids it's exciting. Mom, look, I need new shoes, these are too small. Look, I'm outgrowing my pants. There's an excitement in growth. There's an excitement in no longer feeling like you fit in exactly the same places as before. And so rather than having that make you feel badly, see if you can tap back into the energy that you had as a kid when you would outgrow shoes and dresses, and that sense of, look, I've changed. That doesn't quite fit anymore. And that's okay. That's great. And there may be a moment of time in which you don't have something to replace it. You go metaphorically barefoot for a moment. Mom's too busy to buy you a new pair of shoes. Okay. So that place, that activity, that group of people no longer fits. Okay. Well, there may be a period of time in which you're metaphorically barefoot before a different activity, different group of people, different place suddenly becomes the one that feels like, yeah, this fits. This is my right size now. And that's okay. Don't be so afraid of that metaphoric barefootness that we either go back into something that doesn't fit or rush into something else that doesn't fit. All that matters is you fit. And if you stay connected with that, it's going to grow its roots in you. And then that tree will get bigger and stronger. Then you can go anywhere, you can be with anyone, do anything, because you're grounded. You're you. But for a while, protect it. It's very, very precious and it's very vulnerable because it's very open. Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah. Wonderful. Have a beautiful rest of your evening, and we'll see you all tomorrow.